Well, hello there, Rebecca Stevens. I'm so honored to have you on the Red Couch today.
Oh, Angie, thank you for inviting me. It's so nice to be here.
And we just established that we originally met in a group that is now called the Be Her group, no longer the Struggle Latte
That
with a Wink, which is so hard to pronounce.
I know. What a
But
great group.
it's a group of ladies of global mobility, basically, I would say.
It is, and mostly I think European, but I've somehow got lucky because I sit in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, no, we have global representation, which I think is really
So
helpful.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm glad we get a chance to talk. Rebecca, you have a very interesting, long-standing experience in global mobility. And when I look at you, I'm wondering, when did you do all that?
I know I have good genes and I
I
don't go
think
in the
so.
sun very much.
You look amazing, you know?
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I work hard.
Do you have any like fun fact you would like to share that people can't read about you on the internet?
Well, I feel like I shared so much on my LinkedIn profile, but you would not see on there that I met my husband at a Renaissance festival and he was dressed as a knight. So he is literally my knight in shining armor.
Oh my God.
And I was a pirate, but yeah, that you would not read that on LinkedIn.
No, definitely not. And it's a very interesting thing that comes up because, I'm researching a lot about Cinderella complexes at the moment.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, you have literally found a knight in shiny armor.
I
Congrats to
rare.
you.
Yeah, he's sometimes he's a frog, but most of the time he's a prince.
Most of the time he's a prince. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. And that would immediately now start a whole tangent on frogs and princes, but I'm not going to go there
Okay.
because I want to hear more from you.
Okay.
So tell us a bit more about your why.
My why. The why started out for the people, and I just love helping people. I think you will read on my LinkedIn profile, I'm a recovering people pleaser. I've got more boundaries now, but but my career in global mobility, my why has grown to my love of the differences of people and the differences of culture and just the nature of the role lets me tap into those differences for the job. Even as I've grown in my career, starting as a relocation counselor and talking to individuals and learning individuals' differences and maybe where they came from, growing in the career to being a mobility director where I was dealing with more tax and immigration, you can see countries as a whole, how their laws come about, and really get to tap into that. Just global mobility in general fosters that curiosity that I have about people and about cultures. And I still get to help people.
Oh, you're so right. And I think the theme of curiosity runs through today, the red couch today for
Yeah,
some reason. Maybe it's also because, yeah, I think, as you say, global mobility somehow triggers this because in this field, there's a sea of endless opportunities to go deeper. It's,
right,
you think in the
right.
beginning, oh, this is all easy, but that's, when you're in the stage of denial, when you don't really understand how complex things are.
it, this is I have notes written down, and that is somewhat of a theme in my notes as well, like
Uh-huh.
when giving advice and things like that. But yeah, keep curious. I think curiosity is one of those characteristics that my team and I, when my last team, we had about 6 people, and we just got along so great. And we sat down and thought through what are the top characteristics that we have as a team that make us good that we want to look for in the next hires. And curiosity was at the top of that list.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the problems that come up in global mobility, you think, oh, I've seen it all, and then something else will happen, right? And it takes a curious mind to be able to problem solve and ask over and over, why not? Why not? Why can't we do it this way? What can we do? How can we solve this? And that curiosity, I think, really drives that piece of helping people through that stressful situation and those problems, whether you're helping an individual, a family, or a program. that curiosity really comes in as a helpful tool. And I don't think everybody is wired to be curious. I don't think that's necessarily something that can be learned, but I have noticed that it's a very common trait for people who get into mobility. I like to say you get into mobility and you either love it or you're gone pretty quickly. And I think the people who love it are very curious.
And then once you're in it, you can't get out of it anymore. You know, believe me, I've
I've
been through
tried,
it.
been
How
there.
how did you get to this place where you're today? You're a CEO, I think. You have your own company.
I
Yeah.
have my own company now, and I just signed another contract today or
Woo.
last night. And every time that happens, Angie, I can't believe people want to work with me. I'm just so so thrilled. Um, yeah, so what really happened was about a year and a half ago. Well, it's about 2 years now. I was impacted by tech layoffs,
Uh-huh.
and so um, I think I had 34 employees on 5 different teams, somewhat related to either internal mobility or mobility. And the majority of us were impacted. And after applying for 209 jobs, because I kept a spreadsheet, um, I had a couple of clients or a couple of companies who asked me to do some small project work,
Mhm.
and it just turned into talent mobility experts.
Oh,
So that is how I've landed here. So
wow.
thanks for
Wow.
asking.
Yeah, and you have so many different educational backgrounds. I tend to think of myself as a multi-talent, but you're amazing. You have
Oh, thank you.
degrees in legal compliance areas, but also in graphic design, and then HR and labor law. But then you're
Uh-huh.
also a conflict resolution expert. Um, I think,
Well,
that must be really worth it in global mobility.
yeah.
What do you
Every
say?
everything is applicable. So I'm 54. So I've had a long time to study and
Uh-huh.
collect, these different degrees. But if you think about it, there's a lot of conflict and a lot of stress in global mobility.
Yeah.
And that's so, well, I guess my graphic design degree was undergrad and I was young and I didn't want to do math. So I went the graphic design route. But where I really got into education and really loving it was getting my master's in conflict resolution. And it helps every day in mobility. It also helps in marriage too. But my husband calls it my Jedi mind tricks. But um, yeah, just being able to calm people down when there are problems and issues with their transition from one location to the other has been extremely helpful. And when I finished that degree I got back in 2005, and I had kind of laughingly said, well, I guess the next step is to get a law degree. And Texas A&M started a virtual program a few years ago, and it just came up at the right time. I was able to use some of my severance from the layoffs to finish that program. And I think that just getting that legal background, especially with all of the legal stuff that we do in mobility around tax compliance and immigration compliance, I knew the lingo. And so I felt like that would just solidify and build on the knowledge that I already have and the education that I already had. So
Yeah, and I guess you and I agree that, despite everything that is relevant in compliance, it's only one part of global mobility.
it's a
Yeah.
small part, right?
But it's good to have the basis. It's good to understand that as a basis. Yeah.
Well, and I really felt like if I had to work with the legal team a lot, I wanted to be able to speak their language a little bit better and
Yeah.
really go to them and say, "Hey, here's a solution that I've come up with. What do you think?" Instead of just bringing them problems, because I know a lot of times legal is so varied and it takes a long time to get things through. And I found when I would take them solutions almost completed that they just had to go through a little bit, I got my result a lot quicker.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah.
For some reason, ChatGPT thinks I have a degree in law too, but I don't. I guess
Uh,
I
Chat,
guess some of my lecture preparation, maybe he thought I don't know, I studied that, but it's all, it's basically all learned on the job in
yes,
HR.
it really is. It really is.
Yeah.
And ChatGPT is our friend for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And the Jedis too.
Right?
So I'm sure you're going to be excited to see my whole Jedi stories on mobility education.
Yes.
It's a whole
Yes.
series
I
I
can't
designed
wait.
last year, yeah,
Okay.
for our global mobility master course, and that
I'm
brings
here
me to the
for it.
next question. Yeah, it's what do you think? What do you think our younger students in global mobility? What do what should they learn? What maybe they don't think about enough? Maybe they just think about compliance right now. But what are the other things
Mhm.
that are important? You mentioned conflict resolution already.
Yeah, you know what I feel like I've learned from back when I started is get all sides of the story when there's
Hmm.
an issue.
Hmm.
Don't jump to conclusion. Just to get those details before you start problem solving. I think that is one piece of advice that I would definitely give people.
Hmm.
And if you come up against a wall when you're trying to solve an issue, ask why. Ask, is there another way? Well, what if we do it another way? I have been told no a lot. And without being too pushy or um, upsetting relationships that I've built, I've been able to come up with different creative solutions over the years that um, that had I just taken no for that original answer wouldn't have happened. So I think there's an art to be able to push back and ask questions and just see if there are other options to solve problems, whatever those problems might be.
I so agree with you. Yes. And I think, this is also the difference between someone who's in the beginning and someone who's a lot more experienced in cloud mobility.
Sure,
Like people with like our experience, they can come up with creative solutions because also they have done things from scratch.
sure. That is so true.
And I think that's also an important thing to remember, that you
Mhm.
need to sort of know how things are built
Right.
before you can actually, come up with solutions. And one of the things you probably also come across is, unfortunately, I still sometimes fall into this trap. We all have our cultural blindfolds.
Sure.
So we all make assumptions about how things should be. And then, when we come cross country and we're suddenly dealing with different employment law or, with different immigration rules or a different government or hierarchy that we are not used to, a world sort of opens up.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess there again, we need to stay curious and not just say, ooh, I made a mistake. Yeah.
And and I noticed when I was younger, I would maybe someone was having an issue with their move and I would think the sky was falling and oh my God, and I would jump to a conclusion or a solution. And it was so much better when I learned to slow down a little bit. And, you know, not everything, unless someone's stuck at the border, not everything has to be a fire to be put out that second. Like I've learned to give myself a little bit of time, ask some questions. And if it's an issue where an individual is blaming someone else, always get the other side of that story because sometimes you don't get the full story in the beginning. So I
Mhm.
think it goes full circle back to curiosity.
Mhm.
Ask all the questions, get all the details before you jump to conclusion, and you'll be able to make a better solution and offer more choices and better solutions and choices to those problems if you just give it just a minute.
Mm. Amazing. So when you work with a company, do you focus mainly on policy? What is your major scope at the moment?
Sure. Well, I have a couple different ways to approach things. So some of my clients right now um, are we are acting global talent mobility. What is my business called? Talent
Talent mobility
mobility experts.
experts.
I always want to throw that global in there. We're working with an old client of mine, Dell. You might know them, the computer company, and we're
Yeah.
helping them review their policies and look at their processes because they're doing some internal changes with HR. So we're looking, that's what we're doing for them. But I have a couple other clients who are actually mobility vendors.
Hmm.
And so I go in and act as a potential client, and I will um, audit and critique, say, their RFPs. What is it in their RFPs that may or may not be attracting potential clients? Looking at their internal processes, looking at their marketing materials, and coming back with feedback from a potential client's perspective. So that's one of the clients that I signed last night. So I'll be doing that bit of work for them. Um, Being that I've been doing this for just 1 year, the other type of client that I've had and is really fun for me are startups or small companies that don't have enough mobility volume to
Hmm.
actually hire an internal full-time employee. And
Hmm.
so we go in and set up their foundation and their framework and maybe create some one pagers to say, okay, Angie, if you need to hire someone who needs sponsorship, follow these steps. And we actually hand them a step-by-step process that they can follow. And that includes negotiating vendor contracts for maybe an immigration firm and overseeing that in the beginning, and then being able to hand them something that can be managed by HR or recruiting.
Oh, sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Sounds
I
amazing.
just want people to build things properly from the beginning. And
Yeah.
then, if they have big and fast growth, it can be really tough to clean up mobility files or relocations that weren't started off
Yeah.
correctly from the beginning.
Yeah.
So that's kind of
Exactly. Yeah.
my goal.
And I think, it's also a strength of us small providers that we can help the clients to build those things and empower them
Right.
internally so they're not so dependent on
Mhm.
the big four companies, even though, it's important that they have a big four
Right.
provider. But I think it's also good that they know how to write their own policy and how to
Right.
improve for example, the provisions grids, and understand
Mhm.
a bit more on the background so that they're not so dependent on a
Right.
big four provider, especially the small startup companies, because they probably
They
wouldn't
get
want
lost.
to pay. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
the cost is very high for them.
yeah,
And if they don't have the volume with a big company, then sometimes they're not maybe not seen as important or don't feel as important. And so that's another thing. I'm trying to use my network of people from the past 25 years to pair clients with the appropriate service providers if they need service providers.
yeah, yeah.
Sometimes they're so small, they just want to do immigration in lump sum. Every single program is going to be different. And I
Yeah.
think that's what's so much fun about what I'm doing is I can flex to help match their benefits and program to the culture of the company.
Fantastic. Ah, I love that. And I'm sure we're going to talk more about this one on one.
Yeah.
I am curious, if you were now a younger professional starting in the field in
Mhm.
times of ChatGPT, what would you advise a younger global mobility professional? How, maybe things that you wish you had known 20 years ago.
Wow. When I started 20 years ago, we still had paper files, Angie.
Yeah, we too.
Um, but one of my small clients was Stability AI. So it was an AI company, and they wanted us to use AI for everything. So it really helped me get more comfortable with using AI. So I would say if you have a difficult conversation to have, stick it in Chat GPT and have your email read in a way to be written in a way that is um, it gives the intent of what you're trying to say because a lot can be lost in hard situations when it comes to emails. So I think it can be used there. I use Chat GPT to use Stability AI's policy to
Mhm.
write their policy. So Um, it was so great to be able to put in the parameters and then it spits out I'm like, I couldn't believe what a good policy. And then I became the editor and not the writer. And
Mhm.
so it was such a time saver. So as far as in the technology space, have fun with it. The other thing is save every email if there's no PII on it, um, for each case that you work on, because you might need to go back to that a couple of years later because assignments and relocations and the tax rollover and all of those things go on for a while. So don't be quick to throw everything away.
I still have a hard time deleting emails, even though I don't really do casework anymore.
I think it's a good habit to have, right?
Yeah, it was just safer that way. And
It
sometimes, we
was.
even printed them out.
Those old folders, I can't even, we had big filing cabinets.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah,
different times.
yeah. But imagine, I mean, we know how it is. You're a new global mobility manager, you take over like 30 new cases, and then
Mhm.
suddenly, the person before you is gone and all the knowledge was in their head. And documentation in our field is extremely important.
It is so important for sure.
Yeah. And with all of that, what are you currently doing apart you know, from your work? Are you on social media, for example, to gain clients? Are you using LinkedIn? What are you doing there?
I have been really lucky, Angie, that I have attended some roundtables. I hosted a roundtable with
Mhm.
Envoy Global and GTN Global Tax Network recently, and I got a client out of that. So I have been lucky for clients to be coming in
Yeah.
right when I just about need the next client, if that makes sense. So I'm not juggling clients right now. I have three clients that I'm working with, and the timing of each is working out really well. But as I think through, okay, what do I need to do next? It's really going to be reaching out to um, my my network that I've been building because and just talk to them about, okay, here are kind of the three spaces in which I work. How can we work together? Do
Uh-huh.
you need me? Because another thing that we're doing at the company is work working as an extra arm to mobility professionals.
Hmm.
So, after COVID and all of the layoffs in the mobility space, global mobility teams are running very lean right now.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm raising my hand saying, hey, do you need project work? Like, do you need someone to manage an RFP or um, review your policies? So if you think about people working on skeleton crews right now, it is so much cheaper to be able to hire a contractor, whether
Hmm.
it's me or someone else that you've worked for, reach out and use them. You're more likely to get approval from leadership to bring someone in because a full-time employee is a fixed cost, but
Absolutely.
a contractor isn't. So a lot of times they can come up with contract dollars for you when they wouldn't approve a headcount for you.
Yeah, exactly. And, we can also work across countries. So I
Absolutely.
could even review a policy for you, for example, if you
Oh,
wanted me to.
yeah. I will
So
keep that in mind.
yeah, I'm just saying, like we don't
Yeah.
need to be in the same country even with the
No.
person
Mm-mm.
that we're supporting, or we could write assignment letters for them or review assignment letters or do
Exactly.
things like that. Yeah. And we still need a lot of this manual support. And also,
Mhm.
I, I mean, I'm a big fan of bringing in a human touch into what we do. So we need to have customization. And then, we
Right.
also want to speak to the expats and the expat spouses directly, do briefings for them. And,
Uh-huh.
there are service providers who would support you with that, but many people
Right.
probably just don't even know about that. Yeah.
Exactly. They
Yeah.
they need us to make those connections.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And also the cross-country connections.
Hmm.
Like,
Hmm.
when you suddenly need somebody in one country and you're not sure where to find that
Right.
person. Like,
Right.
I'm reaching out to one of our networks, and then I immediately can provide a support to my
Hmm.
to my global mobility managers. Just because of that huge network that I've built over the years. So that's something we can all do, right?
Yeah, and one thing that I love about our industry is the sharing of information. So,
Hmm.
if you're an engineer or I don't know, an artist, a lot of times they don't share their knowledge or their tricks of the trade.
Yeah,
But we're not brain surgeons. We're not, working on anything that is high security and highly um, needs to be locked down. So I think there are so many people in our industry that are willing to share their knowledge and to help. And I think to go back to your earlier question, that's one of the things that has built my business when I was running large mobility programs, I would have small startups who knew me call me and say, "Hey, what do I need to do?" I'm like, wow, there's so much of a need to help the smaller programs, I think, than there really is to help those big ongoing programs.
absolutely. No, absolutely. I always say that too. In Switzerland, it's the same thing. The
Right,
smaller companies need a lot more support, and
right.
they're a lot more dependent on small providers as well.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I guess the way we reach them is through lectures and workshops and roundtables and,
Right.
one-on-one connections sometimes even.
Hmm.
Yeah, fantastic. And do you have anything coming up, like an event that you would like to mention, or, do you promote anything right now for our viewers that they could look into?
I don't have any events right now. There's one coming up. So if you do watch my LinkedIn page at all, I will be promoting it later, but it's the FEM
Hmm.
conference that's going to be in Dallas in 2025, the FEM conference. And
Hmm.
but we are just now in discussions about getting that set. I'm not setting that up, but participating in that event.
Mm, okay, fantastic. So
So
once you
thank
have
you
the
for
link, you
asking.
can always send it to me. We can add
I
it to the
will.
show notes. And FEM is an organization of mobility professionals, I would say. So,
Yeah, a US one, and it's broader than just say the immigration and the relocation space. So
yeah.
it's also encompasses a lot of the HR because as we know as global mobility professionals, I like to say we're the middle of the wheel and
Mm,
we are the spokes that connect all of the departments because we work with legal, tax, payroll, benefits. I mean, pick a department in a company and most likely there's crossover with the mobility team.
yeah. We're like those animals with a lot of tentacles,
Right.
each in every company and
Yeah,
every
it's true.
arm. Sometimes people say it's amazing how many people know you. And I say, yeah, well, it's all relationship work that
To
has,
know us is to love us, Angie.
it's a part of things that we have to do to get the
It
job
really
done.
is. It really is. Mhm.
Well, it was great talking to you, Rebecca.
Same.
And
Thank you so
I
much.
look forward to hopefully meeting you in person and
I
live.
know. Maybe I just need to come over there, or
I
you need to
actually
come
have a
over.
I have a plan to come to the US in November. There's a
Oh,
conference of SIETA, which is a
okay.
society of intercultural trainers and coaches and
Oh, that sounds
researchers.
great.
So it hasn't been fully confirmed yet,
Hmm.
but I will let you know if I'm going to be in
Okay.
the US.
What part of the States will you be?
Well, this is in Portland, but then I'm
Okay.
also going to be in New York because if
Okay.
I'm traveling, then I'm going to be in two places.
Sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good. I can't wait to hear more.
Maybe a stopover in Texas is in the
It's
cards.
in the middle, right?
Well,
Great.
have a great time, and I look forward to hearing more from you.
Great.
So,
Thank you so much.
bye, Rebecca.
Bye-bye.